when we start to see the same and similar dreams being put out all over the internet, Spirit said. You're going to notice that flow of people suddenly sharing their dreams on the internet, which happened at one point last year, but Spirit says this is a new level of warnings that are coming through our dreams directly from our divine creator, the Lord himself. Hallelujah. It's going to be interesting. So that's what Spirit said, to keep an eye out, that God is going to be sharing this prophecy and doing so through others. So another increase in our intuitive abilities, of course, comes with this. That's part of the truth, too. You have to be more open intuitively to even accept some of these truths when they come. And remember, there's always going to be those who are just, it's not going to happen for them, friends. It's not in their soul contracts to awaken in this lifetime. It's in their soul contracts likely to exit before that awakening comes, unfortunately. And that's going to be a very large majority. I'd say probably maybe even 30-40% of the population. So, but there's still at least half of us that are going to be awakened to this truth, and maybe even more than that. We can hold that in the light. We can't push truth on others. We can only accept the truth ourselves and hope and pray that others open up and start to absorb that truth as well.
So, I mean, the solution, I get angry too. I mean, I see them I've just passed a road where they're literally, they've closed the road, they've cut through someone's hedge, they've gone through their field, they've started building a new access road for the HS2. That whole area down there is wrecked by the HS2 railway. Just countless examples of that sort of thing. But the solution is within you. It's not outside of you. It's not out in the matrix. The matrix is part of you. Your avatar, what you think of as your mind, to some extent that is the matrix, especially the ego and the desires, the material desires, the emotions. It's just part of the matrix. It's part of your avatar, which is part of the matrix. But there's things that are beyond that are harder for you to sense, but they are there. And that's why I say, like, the solution is within you. It's not outside of you, because what's outside of you is like, it's kind of like a simulation of sorts. But also it's important for you to resist the world internally. You need to resist the corrupting influence of the world on that other part of you that you aren't really aware of. You need to resist the corrupting influence of the matrix, the material world, but not try to save the matrix. You're not trying to save the outside world. You just need to resist its effects on you.
Could I also say, we were talking about David Icke before the start of the show. I just wanted to say, the thing is with David Icke is he's always railing against the globalists for wanting to cull down the population of the planet, and I'm like, bring it on! Like, seriously, this planet needs a culling, but it's not like that sort of. It's not that kind of Thanos indiscriminate culling. It needs to be.
Gods taught the Hindus that there was a natural cycle of life that included a dramatic death of humanity followed by a rebirth. The legend of the phoenix teaches that a natural law exists, wherein mankind must die by fire to emerge out of the ashes, growing again, dying again, and so on forever. During the Plague of Europe, many people reported seeing bright lights in the sky preceded by a foul-smelling mist that creeped into town, followed by the Black Death. At least 50 comets were reported in the sky during Black Death. Also, the appearance of human-like figures dressed in black wielding long scythes was reported on the outskirts of town. This is where the image of death was born. After the strange beings were seen, an outbreak of the plague would manifest. Could the long scythes have been long devices designed to spray poison gas into towns? About 100 years after the Black Death came, the cholera pandemic hit. 100 years after that, the Spanish flu originated from Fort Riley, an army installation in Kansas. And now we have the Wuhan virus, which seems to have originated in a Wuhan biolab. The Bible teaches us that Lucifer and the fallen angels rule over the earth. And when you look at the historic record, it almost seems as if they are actually farming us and thinning out the herd. Every 100 years for the past decade, Hollywood has produced endless streams of doomsday and time movies. The History Channel alone has deeply embedded the concept of UFOs and aliens into our perceived reality. So are they preparing us for the end? For another great culling of the human race? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he does not exist. Instead, we are taught that the human race is nothing more than a virus itself. Like the phoenix, mankind must die by fire to emerge out of the ashes and so on forever, until we somehow awaken to the defeat of the fallen ones and escape this prison planet.
Okay, this is my advice to my friend from prison, who I haven't seen for nearly 4 years now. It's difficult to explain, but I mean the gist of it is that I think Luke's, what I'd say is probably an intuition, although he may see it as a logical conclusion, but I think it's more of an intuition that the civilization that we've experienced up to the past few years doesn't really have long left. So we're kind of on the precipice of massive change. It will be transformation, but also catastrophes and things that completely reshape. It will be a kind of mixture of both, I guess. And they have a plan as to how that's gonna unfold, or how they want it to unfold, and they're gonna try and work around these catastrophes, or there'll be sort of agents of guiding the process, but it will be alongside these things that will seem more natural. But we're essentially we're probably a few years away from the start of World War III, which, yes, it will be, I mean, people think about World War III and they think, oh, it's going to be extremely catastrophic, but I think this will be more controlled than we imagine, and there will be less of a kind of futuristic, I mean, think of it in terms more like Russia versus Ukraine. The Russia versus Ukraine war is very destructive for that area, but it's not a threat to human life as a whole. And I think that's what World War III is going to be like on a bigger scale. And it was predicted quite a long time ago, like 100 years ago maybe. If you've heard of people like Nostradamus, these people who can predict things like hundreds of years in the future, and it's no different really for World War III. So I think we're not too far off from there. I'm not exactly sure what the time frame is, but I mean that's just going to be one thing out of many in a sort of wider transformation of society and what people are like, and their conception of what their lives, if you think of a sort of conception of what the world was and what life was about and what to expect from life, how that was like 10 years ago for most people, that has radically changed. And also the culture and how people behave, it's radically changed. Well, I think we're going to see like more of that, and it's going to be to the level where, you know, some of us can't even believe what humans will become. And there's something like we kind of like missed with the like the 1980s cyberpunk and sci-fi kind of novels and stories, was that in those stories the actual humans are kind of they're quite relatable to us, whereas like it's possible that the humans in the future won't even be relatable to like some of us now, like me and Luke, because not everyone is the same right now. Even right now, not everyone is the same. So I mean, what I'm noticing is as the economy gets collapses, life gets harder for a lot of people, quality of life goes down, standards of living go down for a lot of people, and the government appears more and more inept, if not responsible for that. And also the government appeals less to the native British in terms of how it presents itself. You know, you have more Indians, Pakistanis in the government, and this, you know, even though people say that they're not tribalistic, they are sensitive to those things. They start to feel that like this is not for me, it doesn't actually represent me. When they start to see a lot of non-European people in the so-called leadership, and they essentially stop perceiving it as leadership, and they will start to look for their own group, look for their own leadership. They'll essentially form their own. They'll start to ignore government. They'll start to form their own sort of in-group, and with its own, you know, hierarchy. They'll start to look for their own, you know, ignoring government. They'll look along tribal lines for authority, and whoever can, you know, deliver to them prosperity and sense, you know, something sensible, it's gonna completely change, you know. And you know, it'll be the same for like the other ethnic groups in Britain. They will all sort of ignore the government as well, beyond the extent that they can get things from it. I mean, at the moment it's very helpful to them, but there are a lot of them that still, you know, they're not thinking in this sort of globalist multicultural thing. They're thinking very in group, very in-group preference. It's all about their family, their friends, their extended family. They're sort of ghettos of people who are similar to each other. So I think that's what we're going to see. And I see people talking on YouTube now, in the YouTube comment section, British people, they're talking in a way that was unimaginable like 4 or 5 years ago, talking about the foreign elements in the UK. And yeah, they're just saying exactly how they feel about it, which was not the case really a few years ago. And I assume these are real people and they're not bots, because there is a lot of that going around. But yeah, it's just this strange shift to witness. It's like, you wonder, like, where were these people's heads at like 5-7 years ago? So I think we're going to see these shifts. But the important thing is that you recognize that this isn't like a return to sanity for the collective, you know. This isn't the masses sort of like noticing what's happening and returning to sanity and more natural behaviors. This is just another part of a process which isn't natural. So in that sense, these people are not really on your side in the way that you think they are, even if they start to kind of come round to a similar viewpoint as you, like about politics or whatever. It's an unnatural progression. What we're seeing at the moment is the talk of conscription. It's been going on for a while, but it's really ramped up like past week, and I don't believe that they expect to get the Zoomers and the millennials to suddenly become nationalistic and pro-military and all this, and fighting against other groups of people that are probably a different race to them. Is not really. I don't think the government expects that to be possible. I think what they're doing is essentially seeding in the public's mind this. They're just seeding the concept that in the future, you know, the average person may have to engage in a military conflict sort of situations and be drafted into the army and whatever. They're just seeding this concept that, you know, the future is going to look different than what you might expect. They don't actually anticipate people to get on board with this, but just planting that idea of what could happen in someone's mind is enough to kind of open them up to the possibility. And so when things happen in the future, that they'll have a different they'll react differently because they'd already entertained the possibility in their mind. Does that make sense? It's kind of sometimes you have to kind of like have kind of a respect for like the evil genius of the way that these things work. Maybe you know what I mean, maybe you don't. Well, even since 2020, the world's changed so much, and if you haven't been closely paying attention, it's to the changes and also everything that's happened, like news-wise and just developments in society and technology, culture, and just various events, it's very difficult to get someone up to speed with that. So many things have happened. When you're in prison, you're very isolated. You're very isolated from what's going on outside. Yes, you hear the major things, but it might be difficult to get a sense for how much the culture has changed, and just the subtle things like littering on the side of the road, the potholes, all of the speed sensing equipment, and just all the modern signage, just the general urbanization of the country that's happened, all of the new houses that have gone up in the past 4 years, changes in society, like the pubs, a lot of the pubs closed down after COVID, and more people were sort of more internet focused, like for socializing and work. That was one of the objectives of what happened back then. It was one of the things they achieved from it. Yeah, so many things, but it's the way people behave is the thing that's going to be hard to get, because in prison the culture is completely different. So for not, you've missed the sort of emergence of these phenomenons like OnlyFans and virtual YouTubers, and female Twitch streamers that are sort of getting all this money. Well, you would have seen like the early parts of that, but not the way that it's evolved now. It's going to be fairly invisible on the mainstream news and in prison, and also the AI, how the AI is developing and how it's affecting the internet, and just it's not really affecting life on the ground too much yet, but there's so much that you're probably not aware of. So I mean, my main advice is to stop trying to just give up on trying to save the world. This is a trap that a lot of people like us fall into, like early on especially, and the outcome varies, but there's people who know more than us that have known about the nature of the world for quite a lot longer than they know some aspects better than we do, and they've known this for decades. It's not really some new thing that we've stumbled onto. You're just seeing one kind of perspective of a hologram. Like how there's these things that you look at and they change depending on how you look at them. You're kind of seeing one part of it. Yeah, to an extent, some of these people already. You've been friends with people like this that are broadly in this category, and they're not in jail, whereas you are. That's not that's not to say that there's nothing. Your actions are, there's a merit to it. There's a commendability to putting yourself on the line like that, but at the same time I would say that there's also a wisdom in their actions of not putting themselves out there, and it it's not just that, you know, you are willing to stick your neck out. There is an aspect of like wisdom, but it's not really a logical thing that you can explain to people. Do you get what I mean? But anyway, it's kind of a trap, like trying to save the world, because the world is set up in a way that it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be this kind of experience. It's just that the times that we're in now are a little bit different. It's a different flavor of the experience. It's a different part of the experience. We're in the last days. You know, this time was written about in the Bible. We're in the last days. So the world was more believable in the 20th century. And you might ask, like, well, if the world can't be saved or, you know, radically changed, then what about these like heroes of the old world? Were they really heroes? Well, they were powerful people who seemed to act in a natural way, like Alexander the Great. I would say that they were kind of destined to have those roles, and it's not to save the world. Like, they didn't fundamentally change the nature of the world. They were kind of like put out there as something to animate the experience, something, because if the world was just, you know, hobbits in their shire, like living peacefully and nothing really happening, nothing really changing, it kind of wouldn't have that dynamism that creates, you know, crises and, you know, the sort of concept of progress over time, and the sort of evolution of societies, technologies, philosophies, arts, and these changes of power, and all these things that kind of make for an interesting story, an interesting experience, but also within the context of that experience, it's providing a kind of a challenge for the individual soul. So that's why you can't fundamentally change the nature of the world, you know. I'm kind of walking through a footpath through a little patch of woods, like between some fields I've never been down before. I like that sort of thing. But yeah, the reason why you shouldn't oppose the system for the sake of trying to save the world, overthrow the system. The reason you should oppose a system is because it's in your nature to. It's difficult for me to explain this. But essentially, you're someone who understands that the world is kind of like a mousetrap with a very pleasant sort of bait inside it, like a nice, very expensive piece of cheese. But you know, there's also these traps, these unpleasant, unnatural aspects of life that kind of built into it. Kind of seem unavoidable in a way. And yeah, you're someone who's, a part of you can remember your past experiences in different lifetimes, and a part of you is wary about the nature of the world, and you also have a sense that you're yearning for something perfect that's like beyond the world, because you have a sense of that the world is not what it seems. It's not really natural. It's not as natural as it seems, right? Oh, this is really quite a long footpath. I might have to hit it from the other side. I probably can go across this field, get to the end of this field, and we'll see. But I think my bike will be okay. But yeah, there's something different about you from most other people, because you're an older soul, right? I would say there's young souls, old souls, lost souls, NPCs, which are like non-player characters, and there's also entities which appear human but they're not, so kind of like ghosts. But like, imagine a ghost that you can't tell it's a ghost. There's someone's house out here. We're really far from I think we're really far from any road or anything. But yes, this is the thing. Like, you're probably an old soul, and you haven't become a lost soul. A lost soul kind of becomes too attached to the matrix, and they lose their sense of divinity. They kind of attach more to this place, and they love it too much, and they kind of like, they fail to see that it's a mousetrap, right? They love the cheese so much that they always get trapped, right? Whereas you're a mouse that's more like cunning. Do you see what I mean? So this is why you're wary of the government and all these things that other people don't pick up on. Like I said, it's kind of in your nature, like, and if you weren't like that, you know, you would have become a lost soul. And then you'd be like a journalist that sort of like loves it when they go and interview like politicians and gets invited to all these like dinner parties and hangs around with celebrities and all this kind of stuff. You get what I mean? You know, chases like the big job in AI or something, you know, works for the BBC, or you get what I mean? Is like a big, you know, a lecturer at one of these woke universities, something like that, right? These people are lost souls, and there's possibly more of them now than there usually would be, because something to do with the last days. Maybe the good souls have already started being harvested, so there's less of them, and maybe the world is kind of being filled in with more NPCs than normal because of that as well. I theorize that NPCs are probably necessary. They probably exist because they're necessary to stabilize the matrix. If everyone was a real soul, you know, things would be more unstable. It'd be harder to corral them into the it would be harder to keep the pattern of history that's been laid out as the script.
Now it's up to you guys. You pick out the old soul, the young soul, and the lost soul. The old soul, the young soul, and the lost soul. I'm not sure there's any other types of creatures. Maybe the sequential incarnations are not here. If Melvin were to pop in, that'd be a whole different thing. There's lots of different types of entities here. So we're going through this. This is the young soul here. I'm not just talking about age, talking about the progression of the soul's journey. This is the old soul. Again, it has a little bit to do with age, because are you the same Matrix person you were? I was a Matrix person 25 years ago. So age of the physical body has something to do with it. Young soul, old soul, lost soul, right here. Lost soul. Some sort of Chris Farley trans something. I don't know what I'm not sure if it's probably goes by a they them sort of thing, just completely enthralled with their job, enthralled with what this person here, can you put that right up the nose, is saying, thinks this person here thinks this person is actually important. It not only laughs at the jokes and not doing it just to impress the people, literally enjoys the jokes, literally thinks this person is worth listening to. So let's roll this forward and see if we can detect, look at the differences between the old soul, the young soul, and the lost soul. As we go through this, the young soul, we got to give the young soul a break. I mean, in her late 20s, her family praises her up-and-coming career as a news reporter. I was fooled then, too. We can't, look, this person could be more into truth at your age than you are. Let's give the young soul a break here. But we're praising the older soul who smiles politely, and then immediately when she thinks she doesn't need to smile or hold a fake smile any longer, it goes away. But the lost soul is just, look at the lost soul, just loving it, lapping it up. It's like the Chris Farley scene. He's talking about his sale in Tommy Boy in the diner. You're naughty, my sale. It's like, I'm telling you, it's like, you look like a Helen. You sure the fryer's not on? I can get some chicken wings? It is Tommy Boy. It's Farley reincarnated into some sort of news reporter. If we had a secret device that could listen in to the mind, we hear, get me the fuck out of here. I don't think I can listen to these bullshit Philadelphia politicians any longer. How many years to retirement? What if we sell the house in Avalon? Can I retire now? I don't think I can deal with this any longer. I don't think I can fake another smile. It's the same repeating scripts. These assholes come from the mayor's office and do nothing.
But yes, but you still need to keep resisting the system, because there's a danger that your soul can become corrupted, or this is what you're supposed to do, is have this adversary, and you're supposed to wake up and whatever, realize who you really are, and basically sacrifice your comforts and whatever for the sake of doing what you think is right, which is kind of what you already have done. That you're not quite there yet, because you still think it's about material goals. You're still kind of falling for the education system that they've given to you, that your adversary has given to you, and that still shapes your worldview. You haven't kind of developed your own worldview yet, properly. Yeah, I kind of feel like us two are similar in the quality of the soul, or the experience. We both have this kind of nostalgia towards times that we haven't even experienced, and some would just say that that's because we experienced last part of the 20th century, and we can linearly extrapolate what the past would be like and whatever, but I think it might be more than that. Some say that because we're almost done here, we have this sort of unusual level of nostalgia towards our past experiences, because we know that we're almost done here. Just got back to my bike after a really long walk. That's way too much for me normally. Yeah, I think one of the problems you have though is you are very talented, like your avatar or your soul has qualities to it that make you very talented. So you have a big ego. You're also younger, so it's kind of natural for you to be more enamored by the experience here, the illusion. As you can probably imagine, there's like a huge, or you've experienced yourself, there's a huge variety of different things you can experience here in the Matrix, in kind of like a physical sense and like an emotional sense or mental sense. You can probably imagine that. Yes, you have a big ego, but really you need to kind of be reaching something near Satori, so you can start to progress. I don't know, it might not be your time yet, maybe it's not quite your time, or maybe I kind of needed more of a nudge. So there's things I've been allowed to see and experience that you haven't yet. Those may come later in your lifetime, or it might just not be necessary for you because you're already at that level. Or it's possible that you're not quite at my level and you need a few more lifetimes to get there. But like I said, it's the end of days, it's the last days, so there isn't like a huge amount of time left for development, I suppose. I think that's part of why all this crazy shit is going on, is because it is polarizing. Like the wheat is being separated from the chaff, right? It's kind of like you're coming up to a fork in the road, and just being slightly on one side or slightly on the other is gonna determine which path you get sucked down. You know, do you get what I mean? And that's why the world is so fucked up at the moment. But it's also to make you, it's to give you that advantage, to allow you to see what you need to see. I mean, some say that, you know, you're either awakened or you're not, though. And like, people cannot awaken themselves just by their real world experiences. They have to be awakened by something else because it's their time. So I'm not sure how that would factor into what I just said. But yeah, there's no point trying to save the world. It's just going to cause more trouble for you, which you don't need, because you need to be focusing on like other stuff. Yeah, anyone that's a real person is going to be angry about what the dark force and its minions are doing to the world. You know, every day they're chipping away at what things that you and I know are good experiences. They're chipping away at the ability of people to have those good experiences, making life more difficult, unpleasant, and removing the beauty and also the human element, you know, the rich human elements. Somehow they're sort of flattening those out, you know. It's probably only, you know, it's the NPCs and the youngest souls and the people that are the most under the illusion, that are, you know, caught up in the illusion that don't get angry. Do you get what I mean? And I kind of have this distinction between morally conscious individuals and people who are not morally conscious. And I'd say it's rare that people are really morally conscious. Another word you could say is errant. You could say it's only the errants, or it's people who are close to being errant. It's people like you and me. Like the judges and the policemen, for the most part, are probably not morally conscious people. All they're doing is following the collective. They're following what their collective programming is. They're not really thinking for themselves, truly. They have the appearance of thinking about things, but really they're not going to stray from what they're allowed to believe. They're not going to generate their own conclusions and viewpoints, truly, because they're not allowed to break free from the spell that they're under. They're under an illusion, and that is necessary for them to kind of take part in the world, right? It's only you're only going to retain your sanity by breaking away from the collective. So, I mean, the solution, I get angry too. I mean, I see them I've just passed a road where they're literally, they've closed the road, they've cut through someone's hedge, they've gone through their field, they've started building a new access road for the HS2. That whole area down there is wrecked by the HS2 railway. Just countless examples of that sort of thing. But the solution is within you. It's not outside of you. It's not out in the matrix. The matrix is part of you. Your avatar, what you think of as your mind, to some extent that is the matrix, especially the ego and the desires, the material desires, the emotions. It's just part of the matrix. It's part of your avatar, which is part of the matrix. But there's things that are beyond that are harder for you to sense, but they are there. And that's why I say the solution is within you. It's not outside of you, because what's outside of you is it's kind of like a simulation of sorts.